The crowd roared like a storm. Alien voices echoed through the giant stone arena. Thousands of creatures cheering, shouting, waiting for blood. The air was dry and hot. Dust floated in the wind, mixing with the smell of sweat and metal. This was not a place for peace. It was a place for death. In the center of the arena stood a human man. His name was Cade. His face was bruised. One eye swollen, shirt ripped across his chest. His hands were bound just minutes ago, but now they were free. Only to fight or to die. Across from him stood an alien woman. She was tall, strong, with glowing blue skin and silver armor that clung to her body like it was part of her. Her hair was long and tied back tightly, and her eyes, those bright, burning violet eyes, never blinked. Her name was Risha, a warrior. From a planet where weakness meant death, the announcer's voice thundered through the arena. Risha of Velkar Prime versus the human male. No rules, no mercy. The crowd screamed louder. Risha stepped forward, her boots leaving deep marks. In the dust, she stared at the human and hissed, "You'll die in seconds, human. I won't even need to strike twice." Cade didn't answer. Instead, he reached up, grabbed the collar of his torn jacket and pulled it off slowly. The fabric slid off his shoulders and dropped to the ground without a sound. His chest was bare, full of scars, but there was no fear on his face, not even a flinch. He took one step toward her, then another. The crowd grew quiet. Risha's eyes narrowed. She had fought 50 warriors. None survived. None dared look at her like that, calm, quiet, almost curious. She charged. Her movement was fast, faster than any human I could track. She spun her blade around, raised it high, and brought it down where his neck should have been. But Cade wasn't there. He had dropped low, rolled beneath her attack, and slid behind her before she turned. His breath was steady. His hands were open. He hadn't even touched a weapon. The crowd gasped. Risha spun around, furious, and slashed again, but Cade dodged once more. This time backing away instead of countering. No strikes, no kicks, no aggression. "Fight me," she growled. "I'm not here to fight you," Cade said simply. Those words hit her like a shock. She stopped. For a moment, her blade trembled in her hand. What was this, a trick? A trap? Before she could move again, something strange happened. Red light blinked behind her. A drone hidden in the shadows above the arena wall locked onto Cade's back. It fired a small plasma dart, silent, deadly. Risha turned just in time to see it, and without thinking, she moved. She leapt between Cade and the dart, raised her armored arm, and deflected it with a spark of blue light. The dart dropped to the ground, burned and useless. The crowd fell completely silent. Why? Why did she protect him? Cade looked at her with calm eyes. "You didn't have to do that." Risha looked at the drone, then at the crowd, then back at him. "I don't know why I did." From the royal box above, a group of alien generals stood and whispered among themselves. One of them slammed a hand on the glass. "She's compromised," he barked. "End this fight now." Guards began to move. Cade saw them coming. He stepped beside Risha and said quietly, "They want us both dead now." Risha didn't answer. Right away, her breath was fast. Her mind was full of confusion. She was trained to kill, trained to never pause. But something in that moment, the way he stepped forward without fear, the way he looked at her with no hate, it broke something. Inside her. Or maybe it woke something. 2 guards entered the arena from behind them. Cade slowly raised his hands. Risha tightened her grip on her blade. "What now?" he whispered. She looked at him, man, for the first time. She didn't see prey. Didn't see an enemy. She saw a choice. And just before the guards reached them, she turned to Cade and said in a quiet voice, "Stay close to me." The crowd didn't understand. But something had changed. And whatever it was, it had just turned a death match into a bond no one saw coming. The guards stormed into the arena. Dust flew as heavy boots hit the ground. And weapons were raised toward both fighters. The crowd watched in silence. Some were confused, some angry, but all could feel that something had changed. Cade didn't move. Risha stood in front of him, blade still in her hand, but pointed toward the ground. Her violet eyes scanned the guards quickly. She was ready to defend, but she didn't know why. The enemy was no longer the human. It was the ones giving orders from above. A voice echoed from the loudspeakers. Cold and sharp. Risha of Velkar, you have disobeyed your orders. You are to be detained immediately. For investigation, she didn't move. The guards aimed at her. Cade took one step forward, placing himself beside her instead of behind her. The announcer's voice returned, more nervous now. This match is over. Take the human away. The female warrior is under trial. No, Risha growled, raising her blade halfway. He's under my protection. The crowd gasped again. Never before had a Velkar warrior said such a thing, especially about a human. One of the guards spoke harshly. He's a weak species, nothing more than a tool for testing. Move aside. But Risha didn't. The tension broke when more drones flew in, dozens. They circled above like vultures. A tranquilizer dart struck Cade's shoulder. He stumbled, eyes fluttering. Another hit Risha's back. She swung wildly once, then dropped to her knees. Darkness took them both. Hours passed. When Cade opened his eyes, he was inside a metal cell. The walls were smooth, cold, and glowing faint blue. There were no bars, just energy fields that hummed. Quietly, he touched one and felt a sting of electricity. Across the hall, behind another force field, sat Risha. Her armor was gone, replaced with a plain gray suit. Her silver hair was loose now, falling over one eye. She looked different, not like a warrior anymore, but like someone who had been broken and remade. You awake? She asked softly. Cade nodded, rubbing his shoulder. Yeah, you. Still breathing, she said. They stared at each other through the energy fields for a moment, saying nothing more. The silence felt strange, like it carried weight, like both were waiting for something neither wanted to say first. Finally, Risha spoke. Why didn't you fight back? I didn't come here to kill anyone, Cade answered. You knew I could tear your throat out in a second. I knew, he said, but I saw something in your eyes. You weren't going to. She flinched. No one had ever said that to her. No one had ever read her like that. Yet, even her own commanders only saw her as a weapon, never as a mind, never as a soul. A beep sounded. A screen lit up beside their cells. An alien elder appeared as wrinkled, skin dark purple with golden lines across his face. His voice was slow, but powerful. You have made a mistake, Risha of Velkar. You let emotions control a sacred test. Now the bond has awakened, and it cannot be undone. What bond? Cade asked. The elder looked at him. You are human, so you would not know. But in our ancient code, if a warrior spares an enemy during a death match and then protects them, they are bonded. Stood. That's an old myth. Maybe, the elder replied. But the bond is chosen. You will feel it soon. The screen turned off. Later that night, Risha sat against the wall of her cell, staring up at the ceiling. She couldn't sleep. Something inside her was shifting. She had trained all her life to destroy weakness, but now she had risked everything. For a man she barely knew, and not just any man, a human, she looked across at Cade. He was asleep. One arm under his head, peaceful Evan in a prison. No fear, no regret, just quiet strength. Why? Why did he look at her like that? Why did her chest feel tight when she thought of him dying? Was the elder right? Could a bond be real? She didn't know the answer, but she knew one thing. If they were ever released, nothing would be the same again. And outside the prison walls. In a hidden chamber, the generals met in secret. The Velkar girl has failed, one said. But the bond may be real, another whispered. That could be useful or dangerous. Either way, a third general said. They're no longer tools. They're a threat, and threats must be erased. The screen went black. The prison was silent. No footsteps, no alarms. Just the soft hum of energy barriers and the distant sound of machines breathing in the dark. Cade sat cross-legged on the cold floor of his cell, eyes closed, body still. His mind was not. He replayed. The arena again and again, her speed, her eyes, the way she stepped in front of the dart. Why? He could still feel the pressure of her standing in front of him, the heat of her body, the rush of something he couldn't name. Fear? No, something else. Across from him, Risha leaned her forehead against the glass-like field of her cell. Fingers tapped slowly against the wall, not out of boredom, but thought. What had she done? She was the highest-ranked female warrior of her generation. Velkar Prime had raised her to destroy, not to hesitate, but she hadn't killed him. She'd saved him. And not out of duty, but instinct, or worse, emotion. She hated that word. Still, it haunted her like a shadow. Suddenly, the force field between them flickered and vanished for a moment. Just long enough for Risha to step forward. A whisper followed. "Move. Now," said a soft female voice from a hidden speaker above. Cade opened his eyes. Just as Risha stepped into his cell, she didn't attack. She didn't speak. She simply stood there, close. Too close. Cade stood slowly. "You're not here to kill me this time, are you?" "If I wanted to, you wouldn't be standing," she replied. He smiled lightly. "That's what I thought. Last time, too." Risha tilted her head. "Why aren't you afraid of me?" Cade looked directly into her eyes. "'Cause I think you're afraid of yourself more than me." Her eyes flashed, but not with anger. Something like recognition. A second voice echoed from the hallway, this one louder and rougher. "Guards are coming. Both of you return to your cells." Risha stepped back, but before she did, she placed her hand briefly on Cade's chest. Just once. "I don't know what this is," she whispered, "but if you die, I'll never know." Then she slipped through the fading barrier back to her side. The walls sealed again. Later that night, while the guards rotated shifts and the lights dimmed to sleep mode, something moved beneath the prison floors. Not footsteps. Not wheels. A whisper, a low pulse in the walls. Vibration felt in the bones. Then a small hatch opened silently under Cade's cell. A voice came through. Not through speakers, but directly into his mind. "She was never meant to meet you." Cade froze. But she did. "And now the universe will shift." "Who are you?" He whispered aloud. "I am the reason they feared the bond. I am the one they buried under sand and steel. I am the last voice of the ancient code." Cade's heart pounded. "What do you want from me?" "Nothing. But the bond wants everything. From both of you. Run when the chance comes, or you both die here." Then the hatch closed. The room returned to silence. The next morning, Risha was gone. Her cell stood empty. Cade leapt to his feet, calling out, "Where is she?" Guard walked past, cold and quiet. "She has been taken for reconditioning." "Shh!" Failed her path. "No," Cade shouted, slamming a fist into the force field. "You can't." He didn't finish, because something sharp clicked beneath his feet. The hatch again, but this time, it opened fully and a metal pod shot up, unlocking the field around him. An escape route. A voice returned to his mind. "This is your only chance. Save her, or the bond dies with her." Cade didn't hesitate. He jumped into the pedand. It sank down into the unknown, in another part of the facility. Risha lay on a cold steel table, wires attached to her temples, machines humming around. Her two alien surgeons stood beside her. "She's resisting the memory wipes." She was bonded. "It's too deep. We should have terminated her. She's still useful. If we sever the connection before he reaches her." Risha's eyes fluttered. But she wasn't unconscious. She was listening, and inside her mind. She whispered a single word. "Cade." Strict. The pod jolted as it shot through narrow tunnels beneath the prison. Cade held on tightly, the cold wind brushing past his face like knives. His heartbeat matched the pulsing red lights flashing inside the escape tube. Then, sudden silence. The pod stopped. A circular door slid open, revealing a narrow corridor lined with ancient markings. This wasn't part of the prison. The walls were stone, not steel. The air was heavier, older, almost like the place had been asleep for centuries, waiting. He stepped out. A voice spoke again inside his mind. Not loud, not urgent, calm and cold. Walk forward. Do not fear the walls. They are watching. Cade moved ahead. On either side of him, carvings glowed faintly. Warriors' eyes like Risha's, each one holding a broken blade, their stories etched. In lines older than memory. Then the path ended at a door made of black stone. It opened before he could touch it. Inside, Risha stood in chains, her hands bound above her, legs locked to the floor. But her eyes, half closed and bleeding from the side, lifted the moment she heard his breath. Cade. He rushed to her. You shouldn't have come, she whispered. They'll kill us both. Came a voice from the shadows. You'll kill him. From the far side of the chamber, a tall figure stepped into view, dressed in ceremonial robes. Armor beneath, eyes glowing gold. The High Warden of Velkar. You two have triggered the ancient bond, the warden said slowly. But we do not bow to myths anymore. She wishes to live, she must complete the trial of blood. By killing you with her own hands? Risha shook her head. That's not lit slaughter. No, the warden replied. It's order. The bond must not spread. If a Velkar warrior spares a human, others may begin to question. They question, they may choose. If they choose Velkar control breaks, guards entered, placing a blade at Cade's feet. Pick it up, the warden ordered. One last time, fight for your life. Cade looked at the weapon. Risha. He didn't move. The warden's voice grew darker. You refuse? I came for her, Cade said, not to fight. Risha trembled. Her chains unlocked with a hiss. Her hands dropped, weak but free. The guards pushed her forward. If you don't strike, one said, we'll kill him anyway. Duh. Her fingers touched the hilt of her own blade, returned to her by force. She turned slowly toward Cade, eyes wide with pain. He looked up at her and whispered, You know this isn't you? Her voice cracked. I don't know what I am anymore. Then let me remind you, he said, you're the one who saved me. Twice, not because of a bond. It's because you're more than they ever let you be. Her blade shook. The warden's voice barked, Do it! But she didn't move. Instead, she screamed and threw the blade to the floor. No, she cried. I won't be your tool anymore. Gasps echoed through the chamber. The guards raised their weapons. Cade rushed forward not to fight, but to shield her body with his own. Risha grabbed him tight, and in that second, something ancient awoke. The carvings on the wall lit up. The chamber trembled. A blast of violet light erupted from the floor, knocking everyone else backward. The warden hit the ground hard. The guards flew into the walls. Only. Cade and Risha remained standing inside a glowing circle of light. She looked, down at her hands. No chains, no blade, just warmth, connection. Cade whispered, What is this? She touched his chest. The bond, it's real. Above them, a seal on the ceiling burst open, light pouring through as a hidden gate unlocked. A final voice rang out across the room, not from the warden, not from the guards. It came from the walls, the past, the ancestors themselves. Those who choose without fear, awaken the blood of freedom. And then silence. The chamber fell dark again, but Risha and Cade were already climbing, together, toward the light. Alarms screamed above them. Red lights flashed through the crumbling corridors. The ancient seal that had opened above now led to chaos. Flames burst from vents. Smoke filled the air, and the structure began to shake like it had been waiting. Centuries to collapse. Risha and Cade ran side by side. Her bare feet pounded the stone floor. His breath came in sharp bursts. Their hands never let go of each other. Whatever the bond had awakened, it was real now. It was alive. Every step they took, the building fought to stop them. Behind them, the warden roared commands into the smoke. Seal the exits. I want them dead or burned. Guards scrambled like ants, but the structure was falling apart from within. Lights exploded overhead. Ceiling pieces crashed to the ground. The ancient carvings on the walls began to split and bleed strange, glowing dust as if the past was mourning what had become of its future. Left, Risha shouted, pulling Cade toward a narrow tunnel. "How do you know where you're going?" he asked, coughing through the smoke. "I don't," she said, eyes blazing, "but I feel it." They slipped through the broken corridor as the floor collapsed behind them. A guard reached for Risha's leg. She kicked him back into the fire. Without hesitation, her heart raced. Not because of the danger, but because for the first time, she wasn't running from pain. She was running toward something. Freedom. Cade suddenly stumbled. His foot caught on a piece of broken pipe. He hit the floor hard. "Get up," Risha said, turning back, but he didn't move. Smoke was thick. His eyes were fluttering. "No," she whispered, dropping beside him. She pressed her hands to his chest. "Don't you dare quit on me now." A blast shook the floor again. Heat pressed in. Guards closed in from the other end, shouting, weapons drawn, and then Risha did something no one had ever seen from a Velkar warrior. She screamed, not in anger, but in fear, and pulled Cade into her arms. A violet light burst from her skin. Guards were thrown backward. Fire retreated like a curtain. The corridor split open, revealing an old passage hidden and alive with light. Cade coughed once, eyes blinking open. "You glowing?" "I'll explain later," she said, lifting him over her shoulder. He didn't argue. The hidden tunnel was cooler. The fire didn't follow them there instead. The walls were smooth crystal. Soft lights pulsed with their footsteps. It was as if the passage welcomed them like it had waited centuries for their bond to form. They reached a chamber filled with floating stones, platforms hanging midair. Leading toward a glowing door above, Risha stopped. Cade, weak but alert, looked up. "You think we can cross that?" "No," she replied, breathing heavy. "But we don't have to think. We trust." She stepped onto the first stone. It held her, then another. She turned. "Come on." Cade followed, stepping where she stepped, trusting where she leaped. Halfway through, blasts sounded far behind them. The warden's voice rang again, carried through ancient speakers. "Return now, Risha. You still have a place here. The human is a lie, a weakness. Come back before we erase you from Velkar history." She didn't stop. She didn't speak. But in her mind a voice answered, "Let your history burn. I've found something stronger than your fear." They reached the final platform. The glowing door opened. Outside was a hidden hangar, abandoned, but still alive. An old transport ship sat cold and dusty, half buried in rock but untouched by time. "This is it," Risha said, moving toward the ship. "How do you know it'll fly?" Cade asked, limping behind her. She ran her hand along its surface. "Because it feels like us, forgotten, but not finished." They entered the cockpit. She powered up the controls. Nothing happened. She tried again. The ship growled like an old beast waking from sleep. Panels flickered. Engines groaned. Then light. Cade smiled. "You really are full of surprises." "You haven't seen anything yet," she said. They locked the doors, lifted the ship, and rose out through a hidden shaft into the black sky above. Beneath them, Velkar's command tower burned. The warden stood watching from below's burning. "With fury, you've made a mistake, Risha," he whispered. "And now, every world will know what you've done." But in the stars above, Risha smiled for the first time in her life. Because for the first time, she chose her own path, and Cade was beside her. Asterisk. The stars stretched endlessly before them. Inside the old ship, silence wrapped around Cade and Risha. The dashboard flickered gently, its systems running on auto repair. A trail of stardust followed behind as they drifted into uncharted space. Risha sat in the pilot's chair, watching the darkness ahead. Cade leaned back in his seat, shoulder bandaged, eyes half closed. "How far do you think we got, Risha?" Didn't look at him. Far enough to make them nervous, not far enough to make them stop. He nodded slowly. "Come for us." "They already have," she said, her voice tight. Cade looked at her. "What do you mean?" She pointed to the scanner. One ship, small, fast, tracking us, no markings. Cade stood slowly, moving to the display. His eyes narrowed. Who? Is it Risha? Didn't answer right away. Then she said quietly, My sister? The hunter ship followed them like a shadow, silent and patient. Inside, the pilot sat still, armor jet black, hair tied in a long braid, silver eyes fixed on the drifting trail of the escapees. Her name was Vela, older than Risha by 3 cycles. Stronger by reputation, colder by choice. She had trained Risha as a child. She had also beaten her once badly for sparing a wounded enemy. Now she had one order: erase the bond, kill the human. Bring Risha home more, destroy her. And Vela never failed. Risha stood in the ship's lower deck, her hand resting against the wall. She could feel Vela's presence. It wasn't fear, it was something deeper. Regret. Cade joined her. She trained you. She shaped me, Risha said. She made me a weapon. He looked at her. Now she's coming to break the blade. Risha turned toward him. She doesn't believe in choice. Not for us. It's not for anyone. To her, I'm broken now. And the only way to fix me is to end me. Cade didn't flinch. Then we don't let her. Risha blinked. You'd fight her? She's faster, stronger, but not braver, he interrupted. She fights out of fear. She looked down. Cade stepped closer. You saved me more than once. I've seen your strength. But now it's not just about fighting. It's about showing her who you really are. Risha's voice dropped. What if I don't know yet? Cade lifted her chin. Gently, then. Let's find out together. The hunter ship dropped from warp. Vela launched a boarding hook, thin and sharp, piercing the side of Risha's transport like a needle. Then she entered, silent and alone. Inside the darkened hallway, her footsteps echoed. Risha stood at the end of the corridor, her blade in hand. Cade stood behind her, unarmed, eyes steady. Vela approached without fear. She stopped 10 steps away. You look softer now, she said to Risha coldly. The bond has changed you. It freed me, Risha replied. No, it weakened you, Vela hissed. You've turned your back on your people, your purpose. For what? A human. Cade didn't move. Risha raised her blade. Turn my back. I woke up. You should try it. Vela smiled darkly. Then wake up to this. She lunged. The sisters clashed in a storm of motion. Blades flashed. Sparks burst. Risha blocked the first blow, ducked the second, but Vela's strikes were relentless, fast, heavy, ruthless. Cade watched, helpless but alert. Then Risha slipped. Vela kicked her hard, sending her crashing in two, the wall blade flying from her hand. She landed near Cade's feet, gasping. Vela approached, blade raised. This is mercy, Risha. End the bond. Return clean. Risha's hand reached toward her weapon, but it was too far, and then Cade stepped between them. No, Risha cried, but it was too late. Vela's blade stabbed forward straight toward Cade's chest and stopped, just inches away. The tip shook Vela's hands. Trembled. Cade didn't move. He looked into her eyes. If killing me restores your honor, do it. But ask yourself, is your honor worth more than her freedom? Vela's breath caught. Her grip loosened. Her blade dropped. She whispered. I was told you were nothing. A test subject. A parasite. Cade shook his head. I'm not your enemy. But maybe your chains are. Vela looked at Risha. Risha rose slowly, bruised but standing. You can choose, Vela. No more orders. Just truth. The silence between them felt heavier than war. Then Vela stepped back. I'll report you. Dead, she said. Both of you. Cade blinked. Risha's voice cracked. Why? Vela turned. Because you were right. I was afraid to see it. She walked out, vanished into the stars. Later, Risha and Cade sat in the cockpit. No words, just quiet. Then Risha reached for his hand. You keep risking your life for me, he smiled. It's not a risk, it's a choice. She nodded. Then I choose you. The stars were calm now, After days of running, fighting, and nearly dying, Cade and Risha drifted in quiet space. The ship, once broken and forgotten, now hummed with steady rhythm. It was no longer just a machine. It was their home. Risha stood alone in the observation deck, eyes fixed on the glowing nebula ahead. Her armor was gone. She wore a simple black jacket now, Cade slightly too big on her, sleeves rolled. For once she wasn't a weapon. She was just herself. Cade walked up beside her. "No more hunters?" he asked. "Not yet." She replied softly, "But it's only a matter of time." He nodded. "Do you regret it?" Risha looked at him. "No, I regret not waking up sooner." She turned to him. "But we can't run forever." "I know, Velkar." "Command. They'll send fleets next, not just a sister." Cade smiled faintly. "Then we give them something they can't control." "What?" "A message." They landed on a neutral station near the edge of the Velkar communication ring, a place known as the Drift. It was built by dozens of alien species, none loyal to any empire, and full of secrets, smugglers, and stories, perfect for a signal. Cade hacked into the Old Comes grid. Risha watched the entrance, blade ready. If they were caught here, there'd be no escape. The console blinked. Link established. Broadcast open. Cade took a breath. Then he hit record. "This is Cade, Harrow human. I'm alive. The Velkar Empire tried to erase me, but I survived." He looked at Risha, then back at the camera, and I wasn't alone. Risha stepped into frame. "I am Risha, daughter of Velkar Prime. I was born to obey. I was raised to destroy. I was told that mercy is weakness, but I've learned something stronger than power." She touched her chest. "The bond." Cade added, "They say the bond between a human and a Velkar is dangerous." They're right. It is dangerous, because it breaks the control. It breaks fear. Risha continued, "To all Velkar soldiers, to anyone listening, you can choose. Don't have to serve blindly. You don't have to be a tool. You can be free." Cade leaned forward. "If anyone tries to silence that voice, know this. We're not alone anymore. We're not afraid," he had said. The message went out to every corner of the system. 2 days later, the Velkar fleet arrived. 15 warships. No warning, no patience. The drift station's alarms blared. Most of the crowd fled underground. Risha and Cade stood on the highest platform, the sky above them filled with the dark curve of incoming destroyers. They came fast. Cade muttered. "I expected worse," Risha said. He looked at her. "We're not fighting that, right?" Smiled. "No, but they might not want to fight either." The lead ship hovered above the station, engines growling like thunder. Then, silence. A transmission appeared on Risha's com-link, she answered. A face appeared. Not the warden. Not a general. A young Velkar warrior. Female. Nervous eyes. "Risha, I saw your message." Risha raised an eyebrow. "You're not here to arrest me?" The girl shook her head. "Some of us. We've been waiting. We just didn't know." Anyone else felt the same. Behind her, more young soldiers stood. Not in rank, not in fear. Just waiting. "Are you ready to lead them?" Cade asked Risha. She didn't speak for a moment. Then she stepped forward. "No," she said. "Lead, but walk beside them." She raised her hand toward the fleet. And the fleet did nothing. No attack. No orders. Just stillness. Then one ship turned away, then another, and another, until the entire formation faded into the stars, like a wave retreating from the shore. Back on the station, Risha and Cade sat on the rooftop. "Watching the night return?" "You did it," Cade said. Risha looked up at the stars. "No, we did." He leaned closer. "So what now?" She smirked. "Now we find the others." "Others," she nodded. "The ones like us. Human, Velkar, whoever. The ones who were never given a choice. The ones who still think they're alone." Cade smiled. "You think there are more?" "I know there are," she whispered. They sat together in silence for a long time. Two people from different worlds, bound not by orders, but by choice. And somewhere across the stars, the bond kept spreading. Not with fire, not with war, but with something far more dangerous: hope.